Hi guys, today I'm going to show you how to cook our Dylan's at Home Tomahawk box for December. We have a beautiful tomahawk steak that we've got from Knight's Farm in Essex. We have some lovely pigs in blankets, some buttered parsnips, some roasted Brussels sprouts that are a little bit different from your norm, crispy cabbage that we've just simply charred, Chianti carrots and beef fat potatoes, and in your box you also get it with our own Dylan's red wine sauce. So guys, you've received your box. In your box we have this beautiful tomahawk steak from Knight's Farm. So essentially it's a large ribeye and called the Tomahawk because of its Flintstone style look. So the very first thing we're going to do is remove this from its packaging, take it out and leave it outside of the fridge to bring it up to room temperature. What that does is ensures an even cooking throughout when roasting the tomahawk, so you get a lovely pink throughout the meat. Okay, once the tomahawk is out and resting, we just leave that to one side. We want that out for around an hour. Then we're going to start on the prep of the vegetables. You want to give yourself around 2 hours in the morning before you want to eat to get everything done here. So we're going to start with the Desiree potatoes first to get them on. Okay, so first off we're going to do the Desiree potatoes. We're just going to get them peeled and into salted water. You want to use cold water because we're going to bring them up to the boil, get them nice and fluffy, and then cool them back down, and then put them into our beef fat there in the oven, nice and hot. So we've got the Desiree potatoes peeled. We're just going to quarter. If you've got smaller ones, you'll find just to cut them in halves, but they should be all roughly the same size as this in your boxes. So into quarters, straight into a deep saucepan. So potatoes are all peeled in your pan like so. All we're going to do then is take one of your bulbs of garlic, literally slice it all up roughly with the skin on, like so. You want to keep that skin on. It's going to give a lovely flavour to your potatoes. They'll taste like garlic throughout. You would want to then take some of your sage here, strip that off, throw it all in roughly, yeah? There's no need to chop it down nicely. Again, with your time, take about a quarter of what you have in your box there, throw that straight into your potatoes like that, and then season with a very large pinch of sea salt preferably. Table salt's fine if that's all you have. Then we're just going to take water, enough cold water there just to cover the potatoes as so. So just like that, all the herbs, garlic in there, and that can go straight onto the stove and bring to the boil. So now we're going to do our veg prep. We have our parsnips, Brussels sprouts, carrots, crispy cabbage. Okay, so we're going to start with the parsnips here. Again, just peel very simply straight down. I suggest you have one of these speed peelers. Trick is in the name of it. Gets them all done very quickly. You don't want to be messing around on Christmas Day. Once peeled, we're just going to take a small knife, top and tail them till you've got the parsnip like that, and then run your knife right through the centre, open that up and cut into quarters like so. So once in quarters, all we're going to do is take the wood out the middle of the parsnip. That ends up being quite tough when you eat it, so you're just going to cut all of that out. Okay, next in order we have the Chianti carrots. These are much easier to prep. We just take the very tops of them off, so there's no peeling involved here. All we do is literally take the tops off like so, straight into a saucepan. So the carrots are all prepped, straight into the pan there. We're just going to put a little bit of the salt in there, pinch of salt. Again, some from your herb tray here, just a little bit of your sage, small amount of your thyme, and probably around 50 grams there, if you're weighing things out, not like me, of your butter. Pop that up with some cold water, as such, literally just to cover the carrots as so, and then that can stay in the pan next to your parsnips there until you're ready to go. Right, so now we're going to prepare the Brussels sprouts. Usually everyone goes around, takes the sprout, crisscrosses it, takes the leaves off. all of that. We're not going to do any of that. I'm going to show you a different way how to do it. So we're just going to take the very bottom off as such of the sprout and then literally cut them in half as so. Now we have the Hispy cabbage, or sweetheart cabbage as it's sometimes known. So to prepare this, we'll take any outer leaves off that look a bit old or a little bit dark as so. Not many on this one, so we're okay. Then we'll cut that straight in half to reveal the heart of the cabbage there. And then from the core, leaving that in as well, which is also edible and holds your whole cabbage together, so you're almost portioning it. So cut that into quarters, and you can put that on your same tray as your Brussels sprouts. Like so, then that's it, that's all your veg prep done. Potatoes have been on for around 20 minutes now. So depending on your stove, mine's quite fierce, they might take a little bit longer. So what you're looking for is just that your knife goes straight through the potato like so. You might not have hands like leather like mine, so just use the knife and don't pick them up. So that's what we're looking for, literally nearly breaking apart. Then have a colander ready in your sink, and then just pour the potatoes straight in like that. And what we're going to do is just let the steam come out for a couple of minutes, and then we're going to ruffle them up. The reason we do the ruffling up of the potatoes is to give them a crispy edge, so when the beef fat goes onto them, the edges get nice and crispy and holds onto it. Right, so next up we've got our carrots here. They literally just go straight onto your stove like that. Again, they'll take about 20 minutes, so you can just leave that on there, forget about them, and you just want them nice and al dente, so your knife goes just through it like that, and they'll be lovely sage flavoured. So Tomahawk has been out at room temperature for at least an hour, so it's just nice, it's not cold anymore, and that will help with the cooking, and it will really make it pink throughout, so you get it nice and even. We're going to cook that now. All we're going to do is take a little bit of sea salt, again use table salt if you like. I personally don't put pepper on the steak, but it's up to you. So just a little bit of veg oil on. I'm going to do this, being in the kitchen here, we have a gas char grill. Now, I'm assuming not everyone has that at home, so you can use just a griddle pan with the lines in it, or you can just simply use a frying pan and seal it on both sides, as I'm doing. We throw the tomahawk straight on the char grill, about 45 seconds on each side, just till we get a turn. You can see we've got nice griddle lines on it there. Okay, so 45 seconds on that side, and again, just for presentation, I'll give it another 45 seconds on the other side, so we turn it 4 times to get a nice seal. So for the final turn on here, like so, as you can see, it's given it a lovely crisscross griddle mark on the steak. That's for presentation. Your oven has been preheated to 180 degrees, and now we're just going to put that very simply straight into your oven. I've got a convection oven here, gas oven exactly the same, all works the same at 180 degrees. You want that going in, and then we're just going to put our first timer on there for 5 minutes, and we're going to turn the steak every 5 minutes for around 25 to 35 minutes, depending on how you like it cooked. Also, into your oven, at the same thing, you want your beef fat. Take 3/4 of what we gave you of your beef fat onto a roasting tray. You want that into the oven at 180 as well, just to get that up to temperature. And you see your potatoes here starting to cool down, the steam's coming off them, and they're drying out nicely now. So what you want to do at this stage is take another colander. If you don't have one, don't worry, you can still ruffle them up without, but this is how we like to do it, and just give them a nice ruffle like so in the colander. This is to get edges on your potatoes, so when they go onto the fat, they get nice and crispy. You want to give it a couple of minutes just so you see all the potato flying over your own kitchen, you know. That's what we're looking for. You see the potatoes here, all these edges here will pick up the beef fat and go real crispy and give a lot of texture to your potatoes, okay? Next up, we're going to cook the Hisby cabbage, or its first part of the cooking. We've got ourselves here some ice water. Literally, you can just use really cold water, preferably ice water, as it will keep the cabbage nice and green. On the stove, I have got some boiling salted water, just literally a couple of tablespoons of salt, boiling water, as simple as that. Cabbages, we just plunge straight into there. Make sure it's ferociously boiling here, really. So you want to cook them as quickly as possible to keep all the nutrients, the vitamins in them, also to keep them lovely and green. So Tomahawk has been in here for 5 minutes so far. As you can see, it's just started to roast nicely. I'm going to give that a flip straight on the tray. Use tongs, obviously, because my hands have done that for 20 years, so they're like leather. That goes back in there. And again, put your timer on your oven or on your phone for another 5 minutes. And the reason we turn it every 5 minutes is, again, to keep the cooking consistent throughout. Then we can start our parsnips and our Brussels sprouts. So here I'm using some rapeseed oil, just nice for colour and a bit of flavour. You can use veg oil, you can use just butter, but I recommend the rapeseed oil. So what you're going to do first, parsnips in, the flat side down, just to get a nice bit of colour going on them. You don't want your pan hot yet, you want it to come up to temperature so it takes on all of the colour there. Into that pan, just a little bit of salt, just to season them nicely, and some of your herbs. Some of the thyme in both of them, a little bit of your sage, bit of your garlic just broken up in there, just nice and rustic like that. And you can see they're slowly just coming up to temperature, and that will take on a lovely golden brown, and then we're going to add a little bit of butter foam in there just to finish them. So at which point, it's been 5 minutes now, so your cabbages should look like this. Still a beautiful green, but they're nicely poached. That then straight plunge them into ice cold water. The reason we do that is to keep that beautiful colour. If we're to leave them out of the water, they'd go not a very nice brown, and we want to caramelise these and grill them when we're nearly ready after. So you can leave these in the ice cold water like so until you're ready to serve. Right, so far the Tomahawk has had 10 minutes in the oven. You see it's still basically rare, that. So we're going to give it another 5 before we do our first check with the probe. At which point our tray with our beef fat on for our potatoes, you can see is nicely melted and smoking hot now. That's had 10 minutes in the oven at 180. So at which point we can add our potatoes to that. You can see now they've cooled down and they've got that lovely texture to them. You want to be quite quick getting them in so the fat doesn't cool down. You can do it still in the oven, but just for safety I've taken it out. So you want to be quite quick, just watch your fingers when doing that. Throw all your herbs, garlic in with it as well, that's fine. And then that straight back into your oven with your Tomahawk, and leave these in here, just giving them a little turn, little shake around every 10 minutes. They'll take probably about 40 minutes at around 180. So cabbage has been chilling in water for around 10 minutes, just so it doesn't become waterlogged and greasy and slimy. Take that out onto a tray, after they're nice and cold like that. So these can stay in your fridge until last minute where we grill them, okay? Parsnip's been on for a couple of minutes. As you can see, just picked up a nice bit of colour there. Nice golden on the bottoms. Just want to turn them over. We're going to give them another minute on this side, and then we're going to add some butter to that just to give them that nice nutty flavour. Okay, so that's had 15 minutes now. We're going to give that our first check with the thermometer. We should turn on there with the on button, simple as that. Just make sure it's on Celsius. And then what you want to do, just being very careful, this is very hot. So go halfway through into the eye of the meat. And the sort of temperature that you're looking for medium rare is around 50. As you can see now, we're on 35. This is going to take maybe another 10 minutes in the oven at 180. So it'll be beautifully pink throughout. Now if you wanted this rare, which I don't recommend for a ribeye because the fat needs to cook, you would take that out at 40 degrees for rare. Again, that's up to you, but I don't recommend to have it completely rare. I'd take it out at 50, so it'd be beautifully pink, medium rare throughout. If you want it any more cooked than that, at medium, take it out at 55 degrees. If you want it medium well, take it out at 60 degrees. Well done. Anything over 65. Again, I don't recommend that, but it's up to you. That goes back in for 5, and then we'll give it another check with a probe then. So the parsnips are now coloured nicely on both sides in the oil, as you can see. So we're just going to add a couple of knobs of butter to each pan to give them that real nuttiness and lovely flavour like so. You see the butter foam up beautifully. We'll keep on turning the parsnips in there for around 5 minutes until cooked. Then we're going to let them sit in the butter after, so they take on all of that flavour. At the same time, the carrots are now looking ready. So I've just taken them off. You can see they're ready. The knife again will go straight through your carrot like that, but still have a little bit of bite, which we call al dente. Therefore, with the carrots, just keep them to one side, keep them in the liquor like that, that's fine. They won't go brown or anything, and just keep them hot until ready to plate up. Okay, so this has been in for 20 minutes now at 180, which is going to give it another probe. What we're looking for is around 50 degrees throughout. And that is just about there. And make sure you test all areas of it. Lovely, that's over. Just to make sure it's at the level throughout. That's perfect. As you can see, that's around 52 degrees throughout the whole thing. That's what we're looking at for medium rare. Pink throughout, basically. The tomahawk is ready at 20. You need to rest it for the same amount of time you cooked it. So cooked it for 20 minutes, that needs to rest for 20 minutes before we use it. That will make sure the meat's nice and relaxed, and throughout it, it will be pink throughout. All the blood will come out of it and it'll be perfect. As you can see, the parsnips now in this beautiful brown colour on all of them, nice and golden. See, I've got a tray with holes on here. Strain them straight on top of that and leave them to one side. So again, you can use your tomahawk here on your resting tray. I like to get all my veg onto one tray, so you can just put that whole tray back in the oven last minute just to reheat everything. You see the juices come out from that. You can add them to the red wine gravy that we've supplied in your box. Just make sure all that flavour you see is beautiful. Add that to your gravy, and then you can put that on your stove ready to heat up, because now we're about 15 minutes away from plating up. So pigs in blankets, these simply as just give a little bit of oil to your tray there and arrange these just so they're apart from each other straight on your tray, and simply they go straight into the oven. They'll take around 15 minutes. So for your Brussels sprouts, you want to get your frying pans nice and hot. Again, I'm using rapeseed oil, you can use veg oil, that's fine. Split them between 2 pans, straight into a hot pan. You hear them crackling like so. A little bit of table salt. So every now and then you just want to give the Brussels sprouts a little toss over, and that's what we're looking for, that beautiful caramelised colour on them. So once they've got a nice colour all over the Brussels sprouts, just add in a couple of chunks of butter to your pans, just like the parsnips. Get it nice and foaming. Then you're essentially braising them in the nut brown butter there, and it'll have a beautiful texture and they'll be lovely buttery, but not falling apart and not slimy like they usually are if you're boiling them. These will take about 5 minutes. Just keep them moving every now and again. Then you can take your hispy cabbage that has been in your fridge, just nice and chilled, still beautifully green. All you can do is give that a little bit of rapeseed oil again, or veg oil if you have, like that. Touch of seasoning. And again, I'm doing it on the char grill here. This is fine in a griddle pan or a normal frying pan. Just get it hot, oil in the pan, straight on, like that. This will give them a beautiful char all over. So your hispies have been on for a couple of minutes, just griddling. Just give them a turn like so. You see they've got a nice little char on them. That's what you're looking for, just nice and rustic. Again, if you're using a frying pan, they'll just have a beautiful caramelised exterior on them like so. Couple more minutes and they're perfect. Okay, so these have been on for about 5 minutes, just getting a nice bit of colour. Again, just take these off, put them into your tray with everything else resting in them. Tomahawk's been resting in the tray 20 minutes now. Potatoes we're just going to check, should be ready there, and the pigs in blankets, then we're ready to put everything together. Okay, with 5 minutes to go, and you see that the pigs in blankets are nicely coloured off and they're ready to go. Again, we'll just add that next to your tray here, and we're just going to flash everything back into the oven last minute. At this point, we can put back on our carrots just to warm back through. So your cooked chestnuts, you can just put them straight onto your board and just literally roughly give them a couple of times over with a knife. Don't worry about them being very neat. You want a bit of texture through. These are going in your sprouts with your red currants as well. So that's fine, still a bit of texture to them. So your red currants, these are going to go through your sprouts with your chestnuts as a little fricassee. And you just literally pick them off their stalks like so, just pull them straight off. So here we have our resting tray of all our meat is nicely rested. What I'm going to do is just transfer all of this over to a clean tray so we can flash it all back through the oven again. So you've got your cabbage. We've got on the stove still our carrots I've just put back on. We've got our Brussels sprouts here. So all of this has been resting and is ready just to go back in. And then we're just going to heat that back up, and then we're ready to carve and plate up. So that's had like 8 minutes just to reheat everything back up. As you can see, it's all beautifully charred, nice colour there, and back to temperature. So now we have everything ready to plate up on our platter. Ready to plate up, everything's nice and hot, all ready to go. We have our beautiful platters here from Cool House Living, a local company to St Albans that I highly recommend. We start with the tomahawk here. As you can see, it's still beautifully hot. And all you want to do is take your carving knife and just run straight down the bone, yeah? Very carefully, and just follow that bone all the way around. We use this for the presentation and to As you can see, it fits nicely on our platter like that. I'm going to take that top piece of the fat off there, save that for the dogs, and then all you're going to do is slice carefully along the tomahawk steak from the top, just nice, you know, not too thin the slices, want a nice wedge. And then if you've taken it to the right temperature, as you can see, it's beautifully pink throughout there. That's what we're looking for. So what you want to do is just follow your bone round. Obviously you can just throw it on there, but if you're feeling a little bit chefy, let's make it nice for Christmas, okay? So next up, your roast potatoes, caramelised parsnips. You want some, again, of your pigs in blankets. Looking for your hispy cabbage. Some of your carrots, throw all the herbs in there as well. Some of your beautiful caramelised sprouts to go on here as well. Going to finish up some of your red currants, some of your poached chestnuts. So I recommend you build this up as your centerpiece for the table, and then we use the rest of the ingredients and do big bowls and serve it alongside with your gravy and your sauces that you're using. Just to finish off, we're going to sauce over the centerpiece with that. Make sure you serve lashings of this with the meal. And there you have it. That's our Dylan's at Home cook along box for this December. Enjoy.